Welcome to Art Estate. I'm Nicole Romanoff, and today I'm sitting down with Toronto-based commercial beauty and fashion photographer Alyssa Lancaster.
The beauty in art is that it's your eyes, it's your vision, it's your brain, and no one else has that. As long as you create from a pure essence, that's all that matters.
Alyssa has built her career around emotion, artistry, and authenticity. At just 25, she's already shot runway shows in New York, Milan, and London, collaborated with timeless brands like Tiffany Co, and worked with some of the top creative minds in the industry. In this episode, we talk about her early experiences in fashion, the evolution of body positivity in the beauty world, and what it really takes to build a career in an industry that's constantly shifting. So if you're ready, let's jump right into my conversation with Alyssa Lancaster. Well, happy belated birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I ask how old you turned? Or
25.
young? 25?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you're just a little baby. That's like such a great age. That was my favorite age, I think.
I'm excited. It feels like a good year. Like, I feel like people take you a little bit more seriously. Like, I feel like anything before is kind of like, for some reason, people don't listen to you as much, I guess. But now I feel 25 is like a good year to kind of set into and try new things. And the second half of my 20s already, which is crazy.
Wow. And you've already like accomplished so much and you're only 25. My God. That's amazing.
Life's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me, how have you always been interested in photography, or what was your journey as a youth? Were you always creating? Were you drawing?
Yeah. I have always been like a little artsy kid from like day one. I loved acting and singing and dancing and kind of being like the entertainer of my family. I'm the oldest of four, so I have three younger brothers. And so I think that just allowed me to express myself in a different way, especially having like a lot of male energy in the house all the time.
Yeah.
My dad was super into photography, which was really cool. A lot of film cameras and all that kind of stuff. He just did like nature, and that was kind of it. But I was always around creativity as a child, which then I don't want to say like it fell into my lap, but it kind of became something that I loved and enjoyed doing. My real purpose for it was I was like overweight as a child. And so when I would go into stores, I would never see women or girls my age or of any age that was like curvier at the time. And I remember being like, I want women to feel beautiful because I want to feel that same way. So when I first started my journey, it was more in capturing other humans in their kind of raw form. And allowing their true essence to kind of shine through is where it began. And I never thought I could make a career out of it. I never thought I could make it anything more than like a side hustle, and something that I just enjoyed doing and creating and meeting people and having conversation. And photography is a lot about art and it's a lot about technicality and lighting, but a lot of it is about conversation and pulling that out of somebody. And so and that journey is kind of where I fell in love with it a little bit more, was that human to human connection and conversation side of it. And that's where it started. I used to live out west, and I moved to Ontario when I was 16. So I graduated high school early. And I moved out here, went to college right when I was 16, and I got my degree in photography. And I wanted to learn like lighting and, kind of proper things instead of just using like kind of whatever I had at the time out west. And I fell in love with it. And then from there it kind of built, and I lived on resident at the time, my first semester, and I met this incredible girl who was actually in charge of the fashion program. And from there they built a magazine, and that's when I started shooting more fashion, beauty, and editorial. So it kind of all just happened so perfectly in such a crazy way. And then when I graduated school, I just was in love with fashion, and I loved clothing and textures and just the conversation with people and the diversity and everything. And so then I started going to New York Fashion Week and shooting the runway shows, which was super cool. I did that for a long time. But anything that was creative and just like I could just immerse myself in truly the conversation. And then around that same time, that was like 2015, 2016, 2017. that was when I feel like the body positivity movement and like everything started changing in the industry a little bit more, is when it started, maybe a little bit before that. But we started seeing some actual changes happen around that time. And so being a part of that, I knew that I wanted to continue my journey and shoot humans just the way that they were, and not Photoshop like crazy, and not kind of fall into that old system,
Mm-hmm.
and be a part of something greater than myself.
Mm. Wow. And so you just turned 25.
Yeah.
And so this would be considered your 9th year
Yeah.
of being a professional photographer.
Yes.
Wow.
Just crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy. So take me back to that first shoot that you did, when your main focus and goal and why you got into it was around like that body positivity. How did you work that shoot to bring that out in that first client that you had, or that first person? Like, what were some of how did you go about, I guess, doing it?
I think then to now it's changed so much in the conversation, and I'm sure you can agree, like the evolution of conversation and the way that you can kind of pull out someone's true essence has changed a lot. Back in that first shoot, I would say I honestly was kind of just communicating them like how I would want to be communicated to.
Mm,
And how I wish that maybe someone uh, could see me, or like where I wanted to see myself. And I think meeting them on that human to human perspective. And yes, there was like, lights, and it was like a whole thing. And I think people don't realize sometimes for models like how intimidating that can be, or just like people to get behind a camera in general. I know I hate it. I hate having
mhm,
my picture taken. So I always put myself into their shoes and how they would feel, and then kind of just reverse psychology and then talk to myself in a weird way. So I find
mhm.
it very healing in my own journey for the last like 9 years, being able to have conversations and meet people and see them for who they really are. And then also kind of see myself that way too has been an interesting journey.
And it's interesting that you've now done that shift, into more fashion and beauty,
Hmm.
because it's kind of, in a way, it's like the anti body
Yeah.
positivity. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, and do you feel like that there's a shift in that industry towards more body positivity, or are there, like, I guess there's the Dove campaign, or maybe
Yeah.
NYX is doing some things, Sheer Tex as well. I see. Are there any other brands, or do you see a shift happening?
So I was for a while. There's a couple like brands in Sephora. One of my favorite brands out there is Basma Beauty. They do a really, really incredible job in diversity, even just in like their makeup products and like shade ranges and stuff like that. But I think in the way that they also we like the way that we shoot them together, there's always a thought of like we want real people and like minimal editing. So I think maybe in that perspective there's definitely a shift. I would say in the fashion world I do see some, like, I mean, trends cycle through and that's just the way of the world. I do see trends starting to kind of fall back a little bit into that kind of like maybe super skinny world. The thing with fashion from my perspective and what I've learned over the years is every brand now, especially post pandemic, is creative in their own capacity, and they're going to create what they're going to create. And some are going to continue to with old trends, and that's just the way it's going to be. And I think some will try and take a different approach, like NYX and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, and so for me, it's just making sure that when I do shoot those projects, I'm shooting with brands that align with those same core values.
Right.
And not
Yeah.
everybody will, and that's okay. Not everyone's supposed to, because every brand and every person and every photographer is going to be different in that. And some people prefer to shoot, you know, super editorial, skinny, crazy makeup, all that kind of stuff, and high
Mhm.
edit. And like that's totally okay in its own capacity. And it's just not my personal style and the way that I want to approach something.
Mhm.
And so it's just everyone's a little bit different.
Do you have a dream client right now in mind?
Yeah, I would love to shoot for Prada one day, or like
Yeah.
some sort of really high-end brand like that. But even like YSL, I don't know if you saw their fashion week. In June, they did a show in Paris, and
Mm.
it was in some gallery I forget the name of, but I don't know if you ever got the chance to see it. But it was in the middle was that art exhibit where it was a bunch of like ceramic bowls floating around in this water, and then they would kind of float and they would like ding and make this beautiful kind of like
Wow.
sound. And they had the show around all those water bowls. And it was just the most beautiful. The way that it was captured was so raw. It wasn't perfect. It was runway, but it was shot like blurry and, different angles, and like things just were kind of messy. But
Yeah.
in that, it was so beautiful. So I feel like if I could shoot something, it would be along those lines of something high-end editorial, but through a different perspective and have it not be perfect.
I love that. So you recently did a shoot, or was it a campaign with Tiffany Co?
Yes.
So tell us about that. How did that come to be, and what was it like?
I did that with the incredible Lisa Corbo, who I've known for a number of years before she kind of took off, and now she's blown up and she's doing amazing.
Yeah.
When I first met Lisa years ago, she owned a store in Yorkville. And again, it was that same thing as she was, in her 60s and selling clothing to women to make them feel beautiful. And there was a different approach to fashion and the way that she saw fashion and textures and textiles and pairing things together. And so I've loved her creative brain in that capacity. So we pulled everything clothing wise from the Webster for that shoot. And again, like her brain, it was very simple styling, very clean, but it was just very elegant in the way that she put it together. And then, yeah, we just wanted to pair it with what's the most like timeless classic jewelry out there. And for me, that's Tiffany's, because it's just beautiful. It stands out. You look at a piece and kind of where it's from and the status that it holds. And so we just wanted to pair that together with her and create like a very very like timeless
Yeah.
shoot. That kind of spoke for itself. Like, the lighting was super simple, the clothing was super simple, and the pieces were super simple. But then all together, it created this impact of showing, again, beauty at like all ages. It doesn't really matter. And Lisa's like, in my opinion, one of the most stunning women out there. And she's, her entire mission has been to kind of show that age doesn't have, or that beauty doesn't have an age, and you can kind of create and be whoever you want to be at any age. And so she actually closed her store in Yorkville and is now doing this full time, which is amazing. So yeah, it's been a cool journey. And that was kind of the middle point of us just both wanting to create something that works together and just continue to show that like beauty doesn't have an age and things are timeless. And yeah.
Yeah. Or yeah, like you said, or we are beautiful at every age, right? It's just part of being human. Yeah. Well, that's super cool. So after you graduated your photography program, was it 1 year or 2 years?
It was 2 years, and it was at Humber.
Okay. And did they have any sort of like business part of the program to kind of teach you that? Or did you kind of like have to kind of fail your way through it after school, figure it out?
I would say fail. They did have a couple good courses for sure. I don't know if at the time they were, I think, as versed as they are now. It was trial and error. I thankfully come from like an entrepreneurial family. So my mom was like amazing in helping me in certain ways. And even just like that, we never learned how to do our taxes or like what that even looked like, or how do you do sole proprietor versus incorporation, or just those basic things were not taught, I think, to any of us. And so it was through conversation with a lot of people. It was trial and error on my own and failing and messing up things, and ended up finding like a really good artist accountant in the city, and they've been incredible ever since, just kind of helping guide me through like what makes the most sense and like what is considered a write-off and what is considered not a write-off and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. What would you say has been the biggest challenge of operating a photography business?
That's such a good question, because a little bit of everything in its own way. I would say the greatest challenge for me has been, I think, understanding the back end of things. So it's not as simple as just like an invoice and tax. It's like how to manage everything. The flow of money has, always been different. Some months you have great months and some months you have very slow months. And so in the beginning, it was like managing what that expectation looked like, and how to kind of plan for it in a way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said in the beginning, a lot of people, from my perspective in Toronto, kind of tend to gatekeep, and there's very few artists out there who are like super willing. And I'm very grateful that I've had a couple mentors in my years that have helped me a lot and guided me in the right direction. And I always want to do the same for whoever I can with the knowledge that I have. But yeah, I would say just kind of learning the things that are not so artistic and not so fun, because shooting is such a small part of it.
Yeah.
And I don't think people realize that. It's like
No.
actually like a fraction of what you're doing.
I know. It's like the iceberg
Yeah.
of image, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
photography is
Yes,
like up
literally.
here, and then it's like admin, editing
Yeah.
is like the
Everything else.
rest of the iceberg. Yeah, it's a lot to learn, and I feel like I've made a lot of mistakes to learn
Yeah.
how to do things properly, and I think it's just all part of it. Something we all have to kind of go through, you know?
Yeah. And you know what? You learn, and I think in this community that you're creating, the hope and the goal would be that everyone can just start to lean on each other and have open conversations of what that looks like. And even like when it comes to insurance and insuring your
Oh,
equipment or insuring things on set, like that's very important. And
mhm.
I was not taught any of that in school. So I think that's important to have the conversation about now.
100%. And so after school, how did you start building up your client base, and did you know that it was more like the commercial industry that you wanted to head into? Did you feel prepared for that, or did you still like feel like you needed some like learning and training?
I I honestly, even to this day, I would say like I'm still sometimes going in blind to just what I want to do and what I want to create. And I think it's changed a lot over the years. And it's forever will. We as artists evolve and change, and what we want to shoot changes. When I first started, I fell in love with the, like I said, editorial kind of runway. I
Mhm.
thought that was a really cool direction that I wanted to be in for a while. That's very different than commercial. You're not really dealing with clients. You're not really dealing with like face to face things. You're kind of showing up at a location, shooting it, sending off the files, and kind of being done. So there wasn't a whole lot of contact. When I started doing more commercial style, um, it started off slow and I didn't really know what I wanted that to look like. It just, again, kind of by the grace of God, has kind of flowed very carefully into the next. During the pandemic, I started working in house for a brand. And I
Mm.
think that's when I learned a lot about commercial and the back end and then what that looked like. I was in house full time during the pandemic. So it was me and one other girl, and we basically ran the e commerce site of shooting everything. And there was like hundreds of looks. It was crazy,
Wow.
and then putting it all up there and then managing Instagram and the socials and the marketing. So I learned a lot in that job, in that position for a while. And I think that really set me up for success kind of onward, being able
Mhm.
to deal with one person in house full time and then understanding what it kind of needs and requires in terms of like every level of management. And then from there, I have just kind of started working, ended up working for another company for a while doing marketing and doing like TikTok and Instagram, and like video editing and stuff like that. And then that's when I fell in love with video. So it's kind of, the pandemic was a lot of trial and error for me. I learned a lot in those couple of years. And I moved to LA for a bit and I just tried everything that I could try. And I messed up a lot. And then I basically spent 1 year, I think it was like 2021 or 2022, I spent like 6 months shooting in my house 2 or 3 times a day. And I would just have like models coming in and out. And I'd have like my best friends at the time, and we would just be doing makeup and hair and shooting and just trying different lighting. And
It's
so
so fun.
it was so fun. And it was, we were in a stage that I think I was like, I must have been 2022, I think, because we were able to have people in and out of your house now at this point in the
Mm.
pandemic.
Mhm.
But I think just shooting on my own dollar, but just creating art and like trying different lighting and failing at it, but being like, it's okay, it doesn't really matter. That whole skill set, it was about 6 months of that, really set me up to be able to handle um, and be confident in like shooting
Mm.
actual clients post that.
Right. And even just building up your portfolio too.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's so important. Do you pitch to clients?
I have in the past. I would say my business right now, I'm very grateful, is very word of mouth and has kind of transitioned into, I've had a lot of the same clients that like I have. I don't know if you know the company Nama.
No.
So they're a clothing company in Toronto. So they're one of my clients that I shoot their e-commerce for. And so I have a lot of amazing consistency in that sense for the last like 4 years. And then I have like smaller companies or like brands or makeup brands or that kind of stuff that I just kind of find through word of mouth or through recommendation of another. So in that case, I'm very grateful. I have pitched definitely in the past, and I still do from time to time when it's like a project that I really want to do,
Mhm.
or like a brand that I really want to work with.
So let's talk about New York Fashion Week. I'm really interested and excited to talk about this. How did that all come to be? Were you reaching out to brands or yeah, to designers to shoot backstage, or what did that look like? What tips would you give to somebody that would be interested in doing that?
Yeah, I would say, find their PR agency. That's kind
Mm,
of the secret to it. So instead of reaching out, you can't reach out to the designer directly because they typically don't manage their own shows. It's a PR company through Fashion Week that'll do it. So you can go online. There's like a master list. You can search up like New York Fashion Week PR agencies, and it'll
mhm,
tell you every like designer, and attached to kind of like a PR email, and then you can kind of cold call and send emails off and pitch that way. At the time, I was very lucky. I was friends with somebody in Toronto who was a PR agent, and she helped me kind of guide me in the right direction of what that looked like. And she would go right for the shows, and then I would take the photos for them. So that's kind of how we work together in that
that's
capacity.
so
So there's
cool.
always that option of going with a magazine or going with somebody, a buyer even, who
Mhm,
needs to capture images, and then you can kind of get in that way. And then from there, it's honestly just having conversation with everyone that's around you and seeing how else you can kind of get in. There's lots of street style photographers who wait outside the shows and they shoot all the incredible looks going into them, and that's how you can get those like celebrity shots depending on what shows you go to.
mhm.
And that's the same thing for kind of Paris and Milan. If you want to just go shoot street style, like you can just go up to the shows and have the list and then go outside and shoot everybody.
Mhm. It's pretty intense work, right? Like when you're inside the shows, I have this friend, and she actually shoots for Getty Images for
Amazing.
the runway shows. And so when it's like Fashion Week time, she'll be like 1 week in Paris, and then it's like London or Italy, and
Yeah.
it's like break of dawn till like end of late day, and she'll be like shooting and editing and sending off images. It sounds like it can be like, I guess nothing's really easy, is it? I
I think
haven't
it just
found it to
depends what
be.
you love. Yeah. I wouldn't say it's easy. It's a different type of hustle, but I mean, a lot of people, on bigger campaigns, you're on set for sometimes like 10, 12 hours anyway. So it's the same
That's
kind of
true.
idea, but instead of being, I guess, in one shoot location, you're at 100 in a day sometimes.
Yeah,
But I think all of us as creatives, like most of us, I would hope, love what we do. And so
right.
I think in that, it doesn't really feel like you're working, at least from
Mhm.
my perspective. And so, bouncing to all those shows and trying different things. And for me, I love fashion and I love clothing, and being on that kind of end of the runway and looking at everybody and all the different designs that are coming through and looking at the artistry that the designer put into it, it's
Mhm.
it's like the most incredible thing to witness. So I enjoyed it thoroughly. And even everyone going into the shows, some are dressed in the designers usually, some aren't, whatever it is, but the creativity that goes behind putting an outfit together, it's like the craziest thing to witness. And
Uh-huh.
so I think just taking a seat back and looking at, or people would come sometimes like in the same look, but they would, dress it so differently. And so it's like everyone's creative ability kind of shines through, and then you're just witnessing that.
Yeah. And did you shoot, so you were shooting like the looks like in the runway.
Yeah.
Did you were you using like a specific lens for that shot, or what did you use?
At the time, I was definitely like an amateur photographer. So I don't
Yeah.
think I was using the best equipment at the time. I was like 18. So I was using what I had, and I had like a 7200, which is great. But I think now I probably would use different equipment.
Yeah.
I think at the time I had a Nikon. It just was not the best thing in the world. I've learned a lot and I've evolved a lot from then. But I was in it just to have fun and
Mhm.
just to create something and just to learn.
Yeah. Like I've also heard stories of like when you're shooting the big, at least maybe like the bigger shows, like the Chanel and, all those sort of like fashion house shows. It can be like fairly competitive and territorial in that little area that you shoot in. Did you experience that too?
Oh yeah, it's always like, and you know what? Respectfully, so there are definitely a handful of photographers who've been doing this their entire careers and their entire life, and like they are front and center, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, I was just young and happy to be in that. And everyone's kind of territorial of like what they're, but within reason, because it's different. I've been doing this for a year and they were doing it for like 25, 30 years. So
Right. Yeah.
I was like very understanding of that. And, there isn't like a hierarchy to photography, but I was so young and so not aware of everything, and I just wanted to observe and learn, and so I just kind of would sit there and be like, "Yep, no problem. I'll stand right here. It's all good." Like, and you're not going to get the best shot because you're not front and center, but it wasn't about that for me. It was about just like
Right.
being in it, and there's enough window space that you can kind of figure it out and maneuver with your lens. You get the shot still.
Right. Yeah. And I think always like trying to be kind to those around you and making friends never hurts.
Never.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you get used to seeing the same faces and the same people, and then it becomes
right.
a little more friendly.
And then you have a bit of a relationship and things get easier from there. When was the last time you shot Fashion Week?
The last Fashion Week I shot was Milan, and that was in 2023.
Was there a city that you have preferred shooting in for Fashion Weeks?
That was Milan.
Milan.
Yeah.
Okay. And why
that
was
was
that?
my favorite. For me, the fashion there, the people there, the everything there was just so incredible. I think New York has changed a lot over the years, especially kind of post-pandemic. It's a lot more like influencers, which is totally fine. I think it flows a little differently than it used to. Where, European fashion is it's so insane and different, and those really unique shows that you wouldn't see anywhere else are going to be there. And so being able to witness that, again, just like just everything was just the most incredible thing. And the shows, like the productions there were so insane. There was one that was just in this like massive like velvet red room, and then Blue Marine did one that was my favorite of all time, and they had a massive bee in the middle, and it was like all kind of mossy and earthy. And at the beginning of the show, like the bee lit up on fire, and then all the models kind of came and they walked on this like dirt path through it all around the fire and then through the back. And I think the set of that was just the attention to detail was crazy versus just like a typical, runway show. You're just walking down and it's the same kind of vibe for every single one in New York. Milan was a little bit more set design and like, elemental.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And so would the Italian shows, would it be like Gucci? Would it be like, Gucci, Versace, like all the Italian brands? Like, do you find that each region is like specific to that fashion house? Like Chanel would be in Paris, Dior, Givenchy.
I would say, I wouldn't say like, I don't shoot runway anymore. So I wouldn't say like I'm super versed in like where all the shows are happening now. But your bigger, Italian brands are going to be out probably in either Paris or Milan. I also went to London Fashion Week. It was a little bit smaller. And then there's like Copenhagen now, and there's men's, and so they're kind of everywhere. But I would say your bigger in-house brands. YSL was at Paris this year. And there's Men's Fashion Week, and everything's like a little bit spread out now. So I wouldn't say I'm as versed now, but you're going to have those incredible brands showing in Europe versus North America.
I have this friend in Paris, and when I was heading out to Paris at Fashion Week, and he's like, "Oh, I feel like it's always Fashion Week here." Honestly, which is true because there's so many. There's like resort and like fall, winter, spring, summer, and anyways, that's really cool. And I feel like some of those images are just going to be so iconic and something that you'll just look back on for so many years and just be like, "Oh, that was such a cool experience." What advice would you give to somebody that is looking to get into fashion and beauty photography?
I would say, honestly, just like shoot. Just do everything you can to put your own projects together and trial and error on your own dime before it becomes like a client relation. And just be creative in yourself. Majority of my Instagram is only projects that I've shot myself, like my own creative projects. I don't have a lot of my my commercial work actually posted, which I should probably change that. But just trial and error and creating things that you have in your brain. Like that's what's going to keep you inspired. And a lot of people I find when I'm, in conversation with clients or they're kind of referring to what they would like, all of them typically refer back to my own creative projects that I've done. Like, I love the lighting here, or I love this here, and I love the simplicity of that. And so that's reassuring as an artist to be like, okay, well, I did this in my house and my against a basic backdrop or even like a white wall, and they love it. So it gives you that confidence, like, okay, I can do this outside.
Do you prefer shooting on location or in studio?
Well, in the winter, because we have horrible winters, I would say in studio. But if I can, in the perfect world that we have a couple of months of warmth, I would rather shoot on location somewhere. I think bringing in nature and the different elements that way, even like as simple as wind, the wind can change so much in an image. And allowing the natural elements to take charge of an image sometimes is really beautiful. Unfortunately, in Toronto, we don't get the most nice weather. So playing with both, but they serve the
Canada. Yeah, for sure. And what's next for you? Do you have any major goals that you're working towards?
I do. I have a couple really exciting projects that are happening the end of this year and then early next year that I can't speak about yet, but hopefully I'll be able to post soon. I know, I'm sorry.
Nice. We'll have to stay tuned.
But I'm really, really excited for, I think, just another year of, for me, my art's always changing, and I want to stay different as an artist. I want to stay just like I know it's hard in the world of comparison of like comparing yourself, or this person's doing more, this person's doing that. And I think it's really important if we can to just stay, because no one will ever view. You could have 10 photographers in a room and have the same subject, and we're all going to shoot it differently, and no one has your eye. And so I think it's really about just staying in your own lane. And I really want to create more of my own projects this year and get back into that creative flow and allow myself to be expressive, even if it doesn't technically make sense to anyone or anything. But if I enjoy it, then that's kind of what I want to do.
I love that. And how do you stay inspired as an artist? Like, do you have any practices or things that you do or things that you watch?
Yeah, I think for me, I get really inspired by elements. And so I grew up in the West Coast. And so nature's all around you, the ocean, forest, all that kind of stuff. And so a lot of different parts of nature I find really inspiring. I just came back from being home for a bit, and like looking at the ocean and the sunsets and the colors, that plays a factor into it for me. I get inspired by honestly even just like being on Instagram and seeing other people and what they're creating. I love a good old coffee table book, an old from like a vintage market somewhere, and scrolling through that and taking concepts. And so documentaries, a little bit of everything. And I think it's important to take inspiration from other things, but never copy. And so taking inspiration from whatever it is and then making it your own, or just like looking at the ocean or a sunset and then, kind of wanting to do a makeup look and shoot it in a way that is similar to what you witnessed.
Right. Have you ever been in a shoot and gone in with one plan and then it kind of morphs into something else?
All the time.
Yeah, that's kind of fun. I feel like that's how you're in like a creative flow, and it's something that's original, which is really fun. It's a fun place to be, because it's like the birth of something completely new and unique to you. And I just find whenever that happens, myself and like the team are just like so excited about that.
And I think it's fun too, because a lot of the times that can flow and change based off like who your subject is. If it's like a makeup brand or a model, or it's like skincare, or you can pull out you can go in with the concept, and then you get there and maybe the energy of that person is so different, or maybe they're super expressive and you didn't expect that. And I think that's where the conversation really gets to flow, and then you get to try this, try that, and before you know it, you're creating something that you never even imagined. But it's through that conversation and that connection piece that all comes to life.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well, this has been so great. I loved my time with you. And before we finish, I have this new part to this podcast where we're going to do like some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Are you up for it? It's
Yes.
it's easy. It's fun.
Okay.
Okay. So let's start. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Sunrise or sunset? Like, which do you prefer?
Probably sunset.
Favorite city you've shot in?
Milan.
Go-to pump-up song before a shoot?
Right now it's like anything Tate McRae.
Nice.
Yeah.
Dream celebrity portrait?
Dakota Johnson.
Favorite movie for visual inspiration?
I'm trying to think. I haven't watched any movies lately, to be honest. I'm like not the biggest movie. I will say like a TV show that I loved was Euphoria. I know it's kind of like a little bit old now, but I thought like visually that was really, really beautifully shot. So maybe that's like the closest thing I can remember.
I've heard good things about that. I need to check it out still.
You need to watch Euphoria. It's shot so well.
Oh, I want to see this. Okay. What's always in your camera bag besides the camera?
Lip gloss. Like a Summer Fridays lip gloss always.
Nice. How do you unwind after a long shoot day?
I have 2 dogs, so going on a walk with them, hanging out with them, and just kind of being back at home.
I love that. Introvert or extrovert?
Extrovert.
Your guilty pleasure show?
I don't really watch TV, which is like not a typical thing.
That's okay.
I love podcasts, so I would say like my guilty pleasure podcast would be like Diary of a CEO, but yeah, I don't really watch TV.
Oh yeah, that one has come up a lot lately.
Love that podcast.
It's a hot podcast for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, any last words of advice? What would you tell your younger self?
That's always a fun question. I think I would tell my younger self to just keep trying. Sometimes it's not going to make sense. Sometimes everything will feel like it's about to combust and everyone's judging, or the beauty in art is that it's your eyes, it's your vision, it's your brain, and no one else has that. And so stay in that focus and know that your art is intentional in its own way. And as long as you create from a pure essence, then like that's all that matters.
That is a wise last thought.
Thanks.
I was really into that. Thank you so much for your time today. And where can everybody find you?
You can find me on TikTok and Instagram at Alyssa A. Lancaster. And that's kind of my main 2 platforms there.
Perfect. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Art Estate. If you enjoyed our conversation, be sure to subscribe and follow along on Instagram for behind-the-scenes content and updates at Art Estate Podcast and at Nicole Romanoff Photo. You can now watch full episodes on YouTube. Just search Art Estate Podcast and hit subscribe to follow along visually. New episodes drop every Tuesday. See you next time for another inspiring conversation.